And welcome again to Cottage Talk. I am Russ Goldman. Joining me right now is Emilio and Max Cohen. This is our post-match show of Fulham's 1-0 loss to Manchester United at Old Trafford. Very disappointing way to lose, guys. And we're going to go through that in the next hour. It should be fun to do. As always, please do subscribe on YouTube and Apple Podcasts. It does help other Fulham supporters find us. Okay. Emilio, let's not waste any more time. Give me your opening thoughts on this 1-0 loss. I feel like I've seen this movie way too many times against Manchester United. There was a difference last season at Old Trafford, but we kind of went back to type here.
Absolutely. Well, good to be back on the show, beginning of a new season. Well, hello, Max. Nice to have spent with you for about 5-6 months since we last did a show. So, great to be back on the show. Opening thoughts, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Russ. It's time we start putting a bet on that Fulham will lose by the odd goal late on against Man United. Lost cannon games we've been sucker punched, and overall I'm not too despondent, right? I think first game of the season, my opinion, play the bigger boys early on in the season when it's level playing field, when you all still haven't got your full strength squads, you're not 100% fully fit, you're in a more level playing field than playing a Man United, a Man City in October, November when they're in full throttle and in some sort of rhythm. So look, for 88 minutes, we hung on there. I think we were hanging on towards the end. I think the goal was coming. The fact they scored it, disappointing, but I think there are a lot of positives we can take from the game, right? But first game of the season, we've obviously lost a few key players. We haven't necessarily replaced all of them, as we know. And I think it was quite telling on Friday night that with a more complete squad, we probably would have held on for a point and potentially have gone on and being a little bit more clinical in that first 20 minutes when we were on top. We had them rattled, but final third, same problem. Final ball, not good enough, wasteful, too many corners, not really hurting the Man United defence. But I'm not despondent, right? It's first game of the season. We weren't battered. We're in it for 88 minutes. We defended well throughout the game, except for that lap, right at the end. And, let's be honest. It's still 2 more weeks of the transfer window to go. I'm expecting more signings. The team will be a little bit more complete, and then we can start to, we can start to look up, not down. But I'm not worried. First game is in Man United away is not a disgrace to lose 1-0. I think there was an overreaction from a lot of the fans on Friday night. I just think first game could have been a lot worse, right? We haven't really bought enough players. The squad's getting back to be more balanced, but we're still 2 or 3 signings short. And but whose fault is it? It's not the players' fault. The players have done their best given the circumstances. And, overall, I think, we battled, we fought, but didn't quite have enough in the tank at the end. But we shouldn't be disappointed. That's where I'm coming from. I think it was an overreaction that we lost in a thing like the end of the world. And suddenly all our dreams are all over in the first game of the season, which is ridiculous, to be honest.
I'm there with you, Emilio. Before I go to Max, I'm going to give you a question for you. Let's go back a year ago when Fulham beat Everton. I think this is a much better performance, even though Fulham beat Everton. I think Fulham are much farther along than they started the season last season. I want to get your thoughts on that, and then I'll go to Max.
Yeah, absolutely. I think against Everton, I think we were lucky to get the win last year. If you think
I agree.
We didn't really create much, and we sort of snatched a win. And I remember I think I did a show with you last year saying, good to see Fulham not play well and win, because we often don't do that enough. But last season we know consistency was a problem, but overall, tough game away to Man United, and but we've seen the last 2 seasons in the FA Cup and also in the league, we've given them a run for their money every single game. They haven't destroyed us in any game. I know everyone keeps saying it's the weakest Man United team in a long time, but actually they've made some shrewd signings in the summer. This Man United team is better than the team we faced last season. We won at Old Trafford. It doesn't take away the fact that we got a deserved 2-1 win there, but they've pushed on, if that makes sense. And I think we're sort of still got voids to fill. Hopefully the Khans are watching this show and start to get their checkbook out and start making some signings, because I think it's the same old story. We had hope 3 or 4 weeks ago with some of the signings, and it's gone quiet again. I'd like to have had these players in by now, ready for Leicester, ready for Ipswich away. We need to be getting minimum 4 points from those 2 games, but I don't think we're quite there yet with the remaining players that we need. But look, we battled, we fought, we defended well. Let's be honest. I think that's our strength. You can see defend from the back, so to speak. I know it's an obvious saying, but we're much tighter. We're not going to give away cheap goals. But there might be a compromise about. I think we're lacking for top third. We'll talk about that in the show shortly, but that's probably where I'm still seeing some gaps and weaknesses, and we have to strengthen quite quickly with some key signings. But overall, let's not get too despondent. It's early days yet.
Okay. Max, I'm going to go to you. Please feel free to share your opening thoughts. And also, if you want to, please comment on where I went on this. Weren't Fulham better against Manchester United than they were against Everton to start the season? But start wherever you want, my friend.
Well, I think you're talking about being disappointed. I think we were disappointed because this was the weakest United team I think I've ever seen in my life. And they were there for the taking. This is a team that finished 8th last season. I would be shocked if United finished above 6 this year. They'd be lucky to get top 6. This team's terrible, in my opinion. I mean, they're a mid-table side, and we weren't at all overawed, as Emilio mentioned. They haven't bashed us, since the Ranieri days. So the reason I think I and other fans are disappointed is because this was a great chance to win 2 in a row at Old Trafford. And if we had a bit more quality in the attack in the third, we could have done it easily. If you think about the Pereira 2-on-1, if you also think about the Traore chances, the situation where Lisandro Martinez almost scored an own goal, Rodrigo Muniz had the overhead kick. We had situations where we could have troubled them, and to concede in late fashion was really disappointing. But I think we need to also talk about expectations, right? And, off air, Emilio said, number one expectation is to stay up. And I think on this performance, this team will stay in the Premier League easily. We're a good Premier League side who, as you guys mentioned, the defense is our strong suit. Bernd Leno, I think man of the match for me, made some great saves. We're solid back there. I think Tete, again, after riding the bench for much of the last year, a great performance. Robinson also was excellent. What we're missing, as you said, we'll get into central midfield, attacking midfield, striker, maybe a question mark too. But this team can stay up, but if we really want to take the next step in the Prem, if we want to get top 10 consistently, then we need the changes.
Well, I'm there with you, Max. And what's interesting about this is that I'm glad that Emilio mentioned this. If I'm the Cons, I got to be looking at what Fulham put out there and thinking, boy, if I just add 2 or 3 pieces, or maybe even a little bit more than that, maybe now we start contending for top 10. So I think they got hopefully a taste of what could be, because it's not the finished article. I believe, as Emilio said, that there are going to be additions. Listen, I've heard things. We've all heard things that there's a lot going on. I've heard that there's a ton going on. Nothing's been done yet. So let's see how the window ends. But if they add pieces, and I'll give you an example, if they add 3 players like they did Alex Iwobi at the end of the window last season, I think Fulham are going to be in extremely good shape, Max. And like we're talking about, when I look at this match, I'm disappointed that they lost, but I focus on the positives to come out of this, Max. I look at those first 15 minutes, and they remind me of what I watched in preseason. I'm thinking, if that is a taste of what we're going to get, and they add players to that, I think Fulham are going to be more than just comfortable. I think they're going to contend for Europe, but they need to add the players. I think that what they have is a good base. They just need to add more talent around the base.
It's spot on. I was just going to say the base is there. They have the making. Silva has put his mark on this team. And he said, listen, I'm here to stay. I don't want to go abroad or to Saudi or whatever. I'm here to stay because he believes in the project. But central midfield on Friday was lacking. Pereira, divided opinion. I think he played well in moments, but we're asking of him too much in this system, playing him alongside Lukic. He needs to thrive in that number 10 role where Smith Rowe was playing. Smith Rowe, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. I thought he was pretty abysmal, if I'm being honest. And I guess that's him getting fitness, sure. But I can't think of a single positive thing Emil Smith Rowe did all match, except maybe get a yellow card off Mason Mount. He wasn't what we needed. So that center midfield, I thought Lukic played well. But if you look at the goal, and we'll talk about the goal, I'm sure. But that to me is Pereira's fault. But it really shouldn't be Pereira's fault because Pereira doesn't know how to play holding midfielder, even a number 8 role as well. I mean, he's a number 10. He should not be asked to do defensive responsibilities. So you look at that midfield, and it's clear as day. We lost the best holding midfielder in the Premier League in João Palhinha, and we haven't replaced him. Everyone knows it. This is not a controversial take. We've known Palhinha, and here's what I'll say as well. The club has known Palhinha is going to leave ever since he signed that contract.
Yeah.
in my opinion. Ever since he signed that contract extension after the Bayern, they probably said to him informally, you can go next summer, and they knew he'd leave. And the fact that we started the season without a replacement is really disappointing.
Okay, so here's a comment from Ben Lawrence. Too many number 10s on the pitch. ESR, Pereira, Kearney, Alex Iwobi out of position. Okay, it's going to lead us to talk about what I'm calling Cottage Talk talking points. Thank you, Max, for bringing us there. Because let's talk about the situation in central midfield with Paulinho. So I'm going to ask the question, how much did Fulham miss Paulinho? Max, you make it sound like they missed him a lot, but here's my thoughts, and this is where I disagree with you a little bit. I actually think Lukic did a very nice job. He's not a natural number 6. There's no question about it. But if you go back and you watch some of the decisions he made, some of the balls he got off of Bruno Fernandes were phenomenal. Go back and watch that. So he's not João Paulinho. That's not his job. I think the issue you have has to do more with Pereira. And that will go back to us talking about should he have started Harrison Reed at that role to go along with Lukic like he did the first time around. That's kind of where I'm going on it. It's a great second look. Do you start Reed and Lukic instead of what they did with Emil Smith-Rowe, Pereira, and Lukic? I'm going to go to you, Emilio, and then I'll go back to you, Max. What are your thoughts about this? How much do you think that they miss him? It's funny because I understand where Max is going. We all are looking at that, but I actually think Lukic played better than most think. Yeah. And Pereira, I think, is being asked to do something that he hasn't done a lot lately. I think he did with his other club, but it's not the same role as Harrison Reed. It's different. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, and I think, let's be honest, Paulinho's been the best defensive midfielder in the Premier League for the last 2 seasons. So inevitably to find a similar replacement is always going to be a tall order, to be honest. Disappointing, like Max said, that we still haven't got someone lined up. We've known for the last 18 months that there was a limited life for Paulinho. We've talked about this Andre guy for the last 18 months, yet still nothing's come to light. So yeah, inevitably, of course we're going to miss him. You don't lose the best player in the league in that position and suddenly expect to be on a level playing field in the first game of the new season. So, but yeah, you're right. Lukic was solid, not spectacular, but he did his job, right? He did as well as he could. I think he was underrated the last season when he played a few games. I mean, when he came back in the team, got some confidence. I thought he played okay, but again, he's always going to be outshadowed by Paulinho. Now Paulinho's gone. We need to move forward. And, is it Marco Silva's fault that he hasn't got an adequate replacement there? That's not his fault. I think he's experimented with something a little bit different. And Pereira clearly he's tried something. I think it's one of those things. I get Max's point. This is the weakest Man United team. I think Man United team is better than the last season. They're just lacking a striker. Man United had a striker. They would have won 3 or 4-0 on let's be honest, amount of chances they created on Friday night and were wasteful in front of goal. The fact that we still hung on 0-0 for 88 minutes was partly because of our defensive capability and not because of their poor finishing. That was Mooney's finishing poorly. We would have been lambasting him. So this Man United team has definitely pushed on from last season. They're better than some shrewd signings. If they can get a striker, then they might get that top 6 place. But, Silva's got limited options. What options does he have? The fact we're still talking about Harrison Reed, Tom Kearney, and we want to get top 10. Sorry, we want to push on up the table. Many players have moved on. Bobby Decordova-Reid's done a great job. He wanted 3-year contract. We're only able to give him 2. He's moved on. Tosin, despite his critics, he's a competent defender. We have to pay money to replace him. Williams gone. Let's not underestimate the gap that Williams creating. His spark, his creativity. I know he didn't have as good a season last year compared to the previous year, but we're missing his guile, his experience, his technique, his set piece, everything. Look at that. He's probably more of a miss, weirdly, than Paulinho, to be honest with you. Everything stemmed around William.
No.
That's what I'm trying to say. I'm being a little bit panicked. You know what I'm trying to say here, though, Max? It's like everyone's talking about Paulinho, but losing William and that experience is huge. And I think we missed him on Friday night. But overall, yeah, of course we're going to miss Paulinho, but the Cons have got to do something because we can't be playing Harrison Reed, Tom Kearney, and Lukic week in, week out. Sorry, that's a bottom 6, even a relegation central midfield. Sorry, that's not good enough.
Okay, Emilio, but
top 10 needs severe changes in that area. And we saw on Friday night, he experimented with many similar number 10s. It just didn't work. he'll change it for Leicester, no doubt. That's for sure. He'll probably will bring in Reed or somebody new if they sign someone on before next Saturday.
Okay. So we have a couple comments. I'm going to share them with you guys. This is from our friend Black, White, and Fred. If Paulina is partnered with Andreas, we may have won that game. Not that Lukic didn't play well, but we need a bulldozer DM. I think I understand that, Emilio. Also, this is from Ross. He says, Sasha did well, but is not a replacement. And I think we're all in agreement. He's not a replacement. He's not
Who
a
else do we
replacement.
have? Who else do we have? We've got nobody else. We've got to make do with who we have. And Marcus Silva's got his hands tied here. He was expecting some reinforcements. Clearly, like I said, we've known Palian was going to go at least a year, if not longer. But, clearly, trusty owners are probably doing something in the background. But that we're still talking about Harrison Reed, Sasha Lukic, and Tom Kenny to be your central midfield triple. It's a bottom 3, bottom 6 central midfield. That, as far as I'm concerned, so we need reinforcements urgently. We've got 2 weeks to make that happen.
Okay. I'm going to go over to you, Max, now. I want to get your thoughts on Pulling, and that's going to lead us also to talk about the starting 11. So it's 2 parts. How much did Fulham miss Paulina? You've already talked about it. You believe that they missed him a great deal. But I'm going to partner that with, do you think Marco got the starting 11 right? Do you think he should have maybe gone with a Harrison Reed and a Lukic, or changed things up a little bit? Maybe put Emil Smith-Rowe out on the left. I don't know. What are your thoughts about the Paulina miss, and then let's get right into talking about the starting 11.
Yeah, I think I didn't hate the starting 11. I think all the arguments you guys made are effective in terms of, Silva was limited in what he had. But there is something to be said. Maybe you could have put Harrison Reed and Lukic as the base and Pereira as a center attacking mid, and maybe you put Iwobi center attacking mid, because I don't think Iwobi played that well today. I like Iwobi through the middle. No. I really like Iwobi through the middle. I don't think what he offers out wide is his best position. So there could have been a number of different situations, but maybe Harrison Reed and Lukic was the safest bet away against United, first game of the season. And just to talk about Smith-Rowe for a second, I don't think he was fit to start at Old Trafford.
Well, I think that's an issue, and I'm glad that you mentioned that. I'm sorry to cut in, Max, because I think that Marco's already talked about that. So I was actually talking to co-host Tony Gold before the match, and we're talking about what do you do about Smith-Rowe, because Marco's already talked about it, Max, that he's not fit yet. So do you start him, or do you have him come off the bench for 30? Do you play the 60? I think that they predetermined, I think you both are going to agree with me, that he was going to play 60 and that Kearney was going to come off him. I think that was always the plan. But looking back at it, again, it's a major second guess. Maybe they should have played him. I don't know. Do you have him go out on the left? Maybe you have Iwobi in the middle, or maybe you have Pereira in the middle. This is the wonderful second guess, because I'm curious, did Marco think about playing Reed and Lukic together, or did he just think, we have to progress as a team. I need to be more offensively minded, and if I have Harrison Reed in there, that limits me. So I want to go to you, Max.
Silva making changes sooner. We'll talk about that after. Marco Silva clearly was make your substitutions a lot earlier. Again, be bullish, be bold, change it at half time.
I would have done that.
Didn't do it. And then bring in Tom Kane again. A bit of a lackluster change again. It's like, that's not a game-changing substitution, so to speak. So be bold, make those changes at half time, because I know we'll talk about that in a moment, but that was for me the starting 11. Yeah, I think it was experimental. I think it's the fact that Man United's a bit of a free pass away from home. I won't say nothing to lose, but it's on those games, if you can get something out of it, great. And I agree with Max. Maybe this is not the greatest Man United team, but we could have come away with more. But it's a bit of a free pass, playing a top 6 team, top 8 team away from home, first game of the season, a bit overawed. You can maybe experiment a little bit, but then didn't work. You will see changes against Leicester, no doubt, on Saturday. But Marco Silva, you should have made changes early at half time. And like I said, Ben Lawrence, poor substitute again. Yeah, that's a very, what's the word? Not a very ambitious change, to be honest. I think that's quite a conservative change there. You need to be more bullish, Marco Silva. So there's a bit of criticism there as well.
Okay, so Emilio, you would have made the change at the half. You wouldn't have brought on Kearney. What would you have done?
Me and Steve Reynolds were actually messaging at half time. I would have taken Iwobi off on the left, immediately take him out. And actually, I would have said, why don't you try Smith Rowe 15 minutes? Push him up a bit more. You saw what he did in those preseason friendlies. Try him for another 15, 20 minutes. Iwobi, I agree with Max. I like him playing in the middle behind the forwards, but not in that wide on the left. And he was ineffective. His touch wasn't very good. I thought he was impacting Jedi's ability to come forward. The link-up play wasn't very good. Try Smith Rowe, push him up on the left in his more natural position. See how that works. And then maybe being a little bit more tighter and conservative. But changing Smith Rowe for Kane and bringing on Kearney, I thought was quite a very disappointing substitution. We should have made more aggressive changes. 0-0 at half-time. Man United won the last 20 minutes of that first half. Would have come out more positive. We should have stemmed that immediately and make the change, but didn't do that. He waited and he played away for the whole game. So clearly he saw something different to what I saw, to be honest with you. So it's...
Well, what's interesting, and I want to now just harp on talking about the substitutions, but Max, it's a good point, because when we look at the play of the guys going forward, at the beginning of the match, we're talking about first 10 to 15 minutes, they looked electric. I'm talking about Iwobi and obviously Adama Traore on the other side, but Emilio just brought up a good point, and I'll put Traore in that same boat. They both were just very ineffective at times, and I would say as the match went on, they've made bad decisions, and that they would and then they get the ball taken away from both of them, not just Iwobi. I would say Traore as well. They both looked dangerous to begin the match, and what was interesting, and Max, I don't know if you heard after the match with Anthony Robinson on NBC Sports. I did. And he actually, I will share this with both of you guys. What was fascinating about hearing from Jedi after the match, he talked about what really went down. And he talked about the fact that Fulham really started very brightly and that Manchester United changed their tactics about 20 minutes in with their press. And Fulham kept going into the press. They played into the hands of Manchester United. That's why that second half of the first half, you were seeing a lot of possession from Manchester United. They made a tactical switch and it worked. And then he mentioned that Marco changed it at the half. He changed, and that's why you saw Fulham be a little bit more bright in the second half. But I want to get your thoughts on all of this. What did you make of our wingers there? Do you think that they started bright like me, but then they had issues as the match went on?
Yeah, I think it's accurate. I think the press comment's really, really true because, boy, we cannot deal with that. And that's another central midfield problem. When a team's pressing you high up the pitch, you need a central midfielder who can get on the ball deep and play and break that. And we didn't have that. And so what you saw was Leno passing it to their team, us spooning it long and losing it. And yeah, the final 15 minutes of that first half, we gave up all possession. And it was just, let's limp to the half. Let's limp to the half. And that's what I was saying when I was watching the game. I was saying to my family, hey, I mean, where's our midfield? Where's the center of the park? We've lost the match there. I disagree about Traore.
Okay.
I think he was really, obviously, he had our best chances in the first 15 minutes. And yes, he did tail off. I guess he was gassed because he doesn't normally play 90 minutes. I leave Traore on the pitch. I leave him on because I understand his decision-making is not there. You know, I'm not going to stand up for him completely because we know if he had decision-making that was even decent most of the time, he'd be playing for the best teams in the world because he's probably the best natural athlete I've ever seen play football. I mean, he's just exceptional. But he most of the time doesn't know what to do with the ball.
Right.
But you leave a player like that on the pitch because late in the match when you need a goal, he's such an outlet. We saw it last season many times. And we saw the match I kept talking about on Friday was Arsenal away when he literally ran the length of the pitch at the Emirates. And if he'd been more – if he wasn't so honest, because I think he's an honest player, he could have won a penalty and won us a match. But anyway, the point is I think Traore should have stayed on. I didn't hate the Kearney sub as much as other fans did. I thought Kearney –
I didn't like
passes, and he calmed down the match in a way. I wish Smith Rowe could pass the ball like Kearney did on Friday.
Okay.
What other subs happened that were really that impactful? I think, Raul came on. I don't think Jimenez did much. I think Stansfield came on too, right? I can't remember anything.
Too late. Too late.
But that's Marco Silva. And actually, I was surprised Marco Silva made a sub at the hour mark because what we all know about Marco Silva is he loves his starting 11. and is very, very reluctant to change it. So I make subs. So that was pretty early for him.
Okay, let me ask you this, and I hear Emilio's commentary that he would have been more aggressive. I'm going to make the argument that maybe based on what I saw at the end of the first half, I bring on Harrison Reed instead of Tom Kearney. I bring him on to go to that protection with Lukic, and I think things would change a little bit. Now, you could move players around a little bit if you do that. You can move some players around. I think that is the move I would have made. If I'm being honest with you guys, I would have, if he's going to bring Kearney on, then I would totally bring on Harrison Reed instead. Emilio, I know how you feel about him, but he does do something that maybe they needed in that match, is really just run around like a chicken with his head cut off and just, he could have been I'm talking about in the beginning of the second half, I might have made that move.
Yeah, and I think, look, Tom, I thought, had a bit of a calming influence when he came on, to be honest with you. But I think the fact he picked up a yellow card for a cheap yellow card in that second half, that obviously then you could argue he wasn't able to sort of go full throttle to actually foul the Man United player when they eventually scored their goal. But I still can't believe in 2024 we're still talking about Harrison Reed and Tom Kearney being our options in that position. As much as Harrison Reed barely figured last season, and the fact he's still in our books. Tom Kearney, great servant, 10 years for the club. We love him. He'll be a Fulham legend forever. We need to be moving on from these guys. We need to get youth, get some physical aggression in there, pace. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the owner's been trying for 2 years to look at a backup for Powell. I've said it's in the last 20 minutes, time and time again. We can't keep relying. That's the best he's got. What else? What other choices does he have? There's got no other choice at his disposal. But Harrison might have maybe, they said, would have run the Man United teams a little bit more ragged, Tom. But Tom, I thought, did okay the first time. A bit of calming influence, kept possession. But again, they shouldn't be options that we should be thinking about. If you want a top 10, we need to be thinking beyond. I don't know if people disagree with you or agree with me, but you're not going to get a top 10 with Harrison Reed and Tom Kearney being one of your two regular starters in that position. Sorry.
Okay.
Loyalties aside, they're not ready. They're not good enough for that level. Or if you want to be bottom 6, then play them week in, week out. Then they'll be fine.
Okay. And that's going to go to talk about another talking point that I think many are going to agree with me. And it took me a while to get here because I like Rodrigo Muniz. And I like what he could potentially offer when Fulham are not playing a top 6 side. I think when you play him against the Manchester United, and he did play decently last year at Old Trafford, I think he gets exposed for what he is. And I think having him in there, and he's trying hard, guys. He's trying hard. But I think Fulham need a starting striker at a different level than Rodrigo Muniz. I hate to say it. I'm now on that bandwagon that wants them to aggressively find a striker. So, Max, I'll go to you first. After this match, do you think Fulham need a new starting striker? What are your thoughts on it? What do you make of me saying that he could potentially beat the Leicester Cities of the world, but you're not going to beat Manchester United, Arsenal consistently with Rodrigo Muniz? If we're talking about what Emilio's talking about, Harrison Reed and Tom Kearney, I think they go together. We need a top-flight striker to take us into the top 10.
Oh, man, this is such a tough question because I do agree that there are better strikers out there than Muniz that we could target. But we need other positions more, I think, at this moment. I think the center midfield is a bigger priority than up top. And we don't have unlimited resources right now. We know that with Fulham. Yeah, we sold some players, but we're not going to spend. And if you really want a top-class starting forward who's better than Muniz, we probably have to pay somewhere around $50 million in this market. And we just spent 30-something on Smith Rowe. And if we want a center midfielder, we're probably going to spend 40 to 50 again. So I think I would love a new starting forward, but I don't think we're going to get one. And I don't think we should prioritize that over a midfielder. Okay. Muniz had an amazing spell last season, but it was, in some respects, totally unsustainable. He's not going to score like that against the good teams, as you mentioned. And he's still really raw, but I don't actually think he played that badly against United. We didn't have that much of the ball. He wasn't really in the match. He had that overhead kick, which is spectacular, that, got the deflection, whatever. He had some moments when he was, grappling with Maguire and Martinez. But, yeah, he's not a replacement for Mitrovic, and we missed that. I mean, at times when we had the ball out wide, you felt it so strongly, right? If you had a presence in the box, we wouldn't even hesitate to whip it in. And with Muniz, they just hesitated, and you never really felt confident that, okay, we're going to get a goal off the situation. But I don't know. I think the answer right now is probably I wouldn't prioritize a new striker.
Okay. I disagree, because I think that you really should if you want to be a top 10 side. If you look at it, Max, I understand that they don't have unlimited resources, but there are things that you can do. You still have a loan available to you. I'm not saying that that's what you do, but there are things you can do financially to get around that. And I'll go to you, Emilio. I was really not wanting to go down this road with Rodrigo Muniz. I want to give him a chance, but if I'm being realistic here, and I'm ambitious, and I know the manager's ambitious, I think we need to at least explore a top flight elite striker. I don't know if we're talking a 15 to 20 goal scorer a season, but somewhere around 10 goals that we can count on a season. And I think that Rodrigo could potentially get that. But when you're going up against Manchester United and he's your forward, I think no one fears that. I don't think Manchester United feared him. And I think part of being a striker is I think you want to be feared, and you need that player. We had that with Mitrovic.
Yeah, and I think, look, I still believe we need a striker. I've said it for 2 years now, so it's nothing's made me change my mind. I think Muniz had that purple patch last spring, but we saw some of his weaknesses the last 10 games of the season when he went with, I've said, like a bit of a goal drought. The fact he was scoring for fun for 6 weeks, and suddenly a bit of a goal drought. He was contributing, performing well, but he wasn't hurting defenders. That's my concern. I think the distribution and service to him on Friday wasn't good enough, but I can accept Muniz starting more regularly if Wilson, Pereira, Smith Rowe, Traore all start to score 6 to 10 goals between them each. You've got to score 50 goals in this league to stay, to get to a top 10 place. 50 goals. That's 2 goals per game. 1.3 goals. Muniz is not going to score more than 10 at the most if you're lucky. So where the other 35 to 40 goals coming from? The issue is more broad than just Muniz. Better quality service. You need those attacking midfielders, Iwobis and others, to score regularly between them to protect the pressure of Muniz. If Muniz does what he's good, holding up the play well, inviting others to come and support him, A, he needs a service, and B, needs those players around him. I just think we looked a little bit fragmented on Friday night. Too many similar players, so to speak, playing slightly out of position. Marcus Silva needs to change that. We'll get more out of Muniz, but will he score the 10, 12 goals? No, I don't think he will do, to be honest with you. So, but if the others can score and contribute 6 or 10 goals each, then we'll be fine, right? It's all about teamwork here. But if you're relying on one person to be your prolific striker, then we've got problems, right? He's not that person for you.
Okay, but that also goes to what we're talking about with service. And I'm glad that you talked about, say, Iwobi as your number 10. I think an issue we had last season, Emilio, I know you're going to agree with me on this, is Pereira doesn't score goals, Emilio. Pereira just does not score goals. Emil Smith-Rowe has already shown the ability in preseason that he can score goals from that number 10 position. I believe Iwobi can. So that then becomes a conundrum. What do you do with Pereira? And I think that's also why maybe he's moved back to that number 8. I think Marco's trying to figure out how to utilize him and get the most out of all of his players. But I agree with you. I think if you get more goals from your attacking midfielders, I think you could get away with Muniz. But again, I think, why do you just want to get away with Emilio? Why don't you want to thrive? I've been here too many times.
Is Pereira still going to be here in 2 weeks' time? Who knows? There's been speculation there as well. So who knows? He's not a certainty to be here in a fortnight's time either, to be honest with you. So it's Williams gone. That set piece threat when Pereira was substituted is missing. That when Pereira substitute? Who's going to be our set piece person now?
Right.
When you've only got one person here, and if he's not all singing, all dances, and not shining like we saw on Friday night, then where's your set piece threat? That's a problem for me as well. So we've got too many similar players, but final third, more composure, better quality, And we know, but look, it's only one game. Let's not get too despondent. But we look at bigger picture here. There's areas of attention. And Marcus Silva alluded to that on his post-match commentary. He clearly wants 3 more players, and he's trusting his owners to invest for the long-term benefit of this club.
Right. And before we move on and talk a little bit about Tom Kearney, I want to go back to you, Max, because you said something earlier that I've been wanting to come back to you on, and it deals with Willian. Now, I don't want Willian back. He's not coming back. But the one thing that I think was a glaring miss in this match was Willian's decision-making, okay? Willian always made the right pass. He always did. Look at what happened in this match. The decision-making is what ultimately killed Fulham. Let's call it what it is. From your wingers, your players up front, the decision-making was horrific, Max. So I know what you're saying. You know, you roll your eyes when you hear the name Willian, but I want to give the guy credit. He was a good decision-maker.
I like Willian. I was rolling my eyes when Emilio said Willian was more important than Palhinha, which was amusing. But listen, I love Willian. I thought he was one of the best signings we've had in recent memory. It was like Ryan Babel, but like twice as good. And I thought Ryan Babel was excellent. It was just exactly what you need when you're in the Premier League, is someone who knows what to do, has that experience in the final third, and has played for a big club. But realistically, I mean, Willian was probably asking for something which did not make sense for Fulham Football Club. It probably made sense for Willian. He probably was going to get a great payday and get his contract extended past the point where he was productive. Because I think he was still really good last season, but everyone knows that he tailed off and he wasn't getting any younger. And at some point when you're talking about Fulham looking forward as a new team, consistently top half of the table, you need younger players. So I don't really want to hear fans crying about Willian. In the same way, I don't really want to hear – we haven't said it at all this episode. I love Tim Ream. I thought Tim Ream has been one of my favorite Fulham players ever. I'm glad he moved on. I'm glad Reed moved on too. You know, these are players who were servants of the club, but no longer fit into the new Fulham that we all want to be seeing. So I put Willian right up there. He was a great mentor for the younger players, but he was probably asking for a 2-year contract extension or 1 year on crazy wages. That just didn't make sense for us.
Okay, very good. All right, guys, one final topic before we break down the match and go and talk about man of the match, and that's this. Let's go back and talk about Tom Kearney. And I'm curious your thoughts on this. So, Max, I'll go to you first. How much of the blame for the goal do you put on Tom Kearney? Now, let me just preface this, that he was on a yellow card, so that probably had a role in this. But if you watch back and you watch him jogging back, I think that's what I've seen supporters pointing at, that he was not going full speed after Fernandez left him in the dust. So how much of the blame do you put on Tom Kearney for the goal? And I think we've already talked about that the blame could be put on other players as well.
I'd put 10% of the blame on him because, as you mentioned, he's on a booking. Any other situation, he takes down Bruno and the play's over, but he couldn't. It's Pereira for me. But if you look at back, and I watch it back from an angle in the replay, which showed you basically the entire field, we have no central midfield. There's absolutely no one within 30, 40 yards of Xerxes. It's ridiculous. Pereira actually, to his credit, gets back. But when he gets back, he's right by Xerxes and then lets him go. And I think that's who this goal is blamed on, is Pereira. Okay. Lukic was holding down the fort. There was too much of the pitch to cover. Our back four was fine, but then we had no midfield. And I think you can also blame Calvin Bassey because that he's by Xerxes. The ball's not struck very well at all. I think he almost shies away from the tackle, which is unlike Bassey, who I thought played very well. But I mean, he didn't go through the tackle. You can't let that little shot dribble all the way into the corner of the goal like that if you're a center back. So I'd say 10% Kearney, 70% Pereira, and the final 20% Bassey.
Wow. Okay. How about you, Emilio?
I think just reading that sentence, Tom Kearney in a Premier League game in 2024, he shouldn't have even been on the, great servant. We can't keep relying on his play. We can't make tactical or change substitutions to bring Tom Kearney on to steady the ship against arguably one of the biggest clubs in the world. So for me, clearly he made a mistake, but I'm not going to pin the blame on him. Far from it. I think ultimately I still blame Marco Silva. We did not make aggressive, positive substitutions early enough. That's a problem for me. So you look back at it, not what happened in the 87th minute, is the point that you made the substitutions or that you didn't make the substitutions. We lost the balance of that second half. Second half, what did we offer actually offensively? Very little, to be honest. There was moments on the break, poor decision making from Pereira, which is probably the turning point. If there was a better pass there, who knows? We might have stuck the ball in the back of the net, but that's the problem. The problem is you didn't make the changes early enough. You've made a very, what's the word? Not the best substitution in the world by bringing Tom on. You've got to be more aggressive. That's the issue for me. That's who I blame. I don't blame Tom Kenny, but I blame the manager for not being a little bit more assertive in his decision making.
Okay, excellent. All right, coming up next, we're going to break down both halves with just our analysis. We're not going to go into too much detail, and we'll end with man of the match. Okay, guys, let's get to it. Let's talk about the first half, and I'll just share my thoughts on it. I'm watching the match, and I'm thinking for the first 15 to 20 minutes, we all know this because we've watched the match, I thought Fulham looked extremely dangerous, and they looked like the team that I'd seen in preseason. I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be good. This is really going to be good. And as I mentioned, Manchester United made a tactical change with their press that changed how the match was going to go the rest of the half, and you saw that. But before I go there, and I go to you first, Max, with your analysis of the first half, Fulham did create these opportunities, and that one by Adama Traore was just tremendous to start the match, that whole situation. But there were more opportunities there. So they were creating enough, I'm talking about early in the first half, to give me a good feeling that it was going to be potentially a match where Fulham not only could get a draw, but potentially win. So I was feeling pretty good, but then the whole mood changed at, like I said, after 20 minutes in, and I want to give Manchester United credit because they changed what they did and they were creating the better opportunities as the half ended. So give me your analysis, Max, through your eyes, what you saw in the first half.
Yeah, I think you ran through it really well. Opening was bright. Traore had one of the best runs I've seen in a while when, literally United players were trying to kick him and drag him down way, way off the ball because he was going so well. And he gets to the byline and puts in a great cross. And I think Iwobi, for me, just was weak because he put it on, it wasn't on a platter, but he asked the question. And it was defending, I think, from Mazraoui, who came over from the other fullback position. But that was, I think, my highlight of the first half was that Traore run. Mm-hmm. Tete also had that lovely shot, lovely run. He ran basically 50 yards with the ball and almost curled the top corner. It was a good save by Onana. And then the press happened. And, Leno, his pass right to Casemiro, we were very fortunate that wasn't a goal. And then there were two different opportunities when, we got unlucky and one of our players tried to clear the ball and we ended up deflecting it right into the path of a United player. I know. Leno did well on both those instances from Fernandes, who could, I think Bruno Fernandes, on his day, he can be extremely talented. But what we saw from Fulham on Friday was awful finishing. You had the Amad Diallo dive. You had the Harry Maguire dive. One of my best friends is a United fan, but United as a club just sickens me. The entire fan base.
How can they defend Harry Maguire there? You can't defend
the players. They have no character. That's I think why I'm so upset because I just hate United so much. I hate losing to them in this manner, in this last minute goals. Xerxes celebrated. Okay, fair enough, it's your debut. You got a lucky toe poke, and the entire time these players are trying to dive and cheat and just, I have so little respect for United, so little respect. Also, last thing I'll say, Marcus Rashford might be one of the biggest downfalls I've ever seen as a player. I think he needs to leave that club. From where he was. Yeah, where he could have been one of the best players in the world when he was younger to where he is now. It's just really sad. Just really sad.
I totally agree. Okay, Emilio, give me your thoughts on the first half.
Yeah, I think you guys have said, I won't repeat what you guys have said. First 20 minutes with a bit more composure, a bit more, sometimes just looking up, because there were times when we had a lot of space, a lot of time, more time than the players saw them. Just passing just was lackluster at times. We got in some very promising positions, hurting their defense, stretching them, but that's that final ball not good enough. Sometimes we get, what's the word? When you get carried away with yourself a little bit too much, you feel that anticipation. You think, you're suddenly, blimey, I've got an opportunity here. Sometimes you get that motivation sometimes gets the better of you, and you actually need a little bit more professionalism, a little bit more composure in key moments. That game reminded a bit like the Chelsea game at Stamford Bridge a couple of years ago when we drew 0-0, where we had moments, we defended impeccably, absorbed all the pressure on the Chelsea attack then, but then just lacking that bit of quality in the final third. This game reminded me exactly like that game, and unfortunately, that goal was coming though. Man United were wasteful, as I said earlier, and I'm not surprised they did get a late goal, but overall, we went into half time probably even Stevens. Really, they had better, clearer chances, but just need that little bit of composure, better quality on the ball, and just pass to feet. Do the similar, like you said, William. More often than not, found that ball to feet. Iwobi, Traore at times, just with a better quality, we might have stretched them. And who knows? You get a penalty, get more corners, more set pieces. Anything can happen, but it's just lacking that bit of intelligence when it counted. But you go into half time thinking we're still in this game, and make a change. We saw some weaknesses, and that's when I was disappointed, saying, well, actually, you made no change at half time, when I think you played into Man United's hands there, and they just took control of that second half, to be honest with you.
Okay, excellent. All right, let's go to the second half, and I'll share my thoughts on the second half, and I'll go right back to Emilio right after that. So here are my thoughts. So, Emilio, this is where I might disagree with you a little bit. I think we were better in the second half. I think Marco did make the adjustments that were needed. I'm talking about tactically to change how Fulham were playing against Manchester United. Yes, they had that wonderful opportunity, that wonderful pass to Marcus Rashford at the beginning of the second half, and they created other opportunities. But what's interesting here, what will stand out to me about that second half were the missed opportunities Fulham had, Emilio. The decision-making in the second half when you are, I think at one point, what was it, 4-on-3 on one opportunity, but the bigger one, and we know the bigger one was Pereira and Iwobi, and Pereira not just making the right decision at the right time. If he makes the right decision at the right time, Iwobi scores, Emilio. It was just very disappointing, because you should be scoring if you're 2-on-1 like that against, I think it was Harry Maguire, and you telling me you can't score on that opportunity or make that goalkeeper Anana work?
And the same thing though
to me.
The second half is the same thing, that poor decision making, lack of composure. It's just as simple as sometimes doing the simple things right rather than trying to do the spectacular. And that was what happened in the second half. It's the same problem as the first. We're just lacking a bit of intelligence in the final third. And when you've got that belief, you can see you're staring 2 against 1. Harry Maguire on that point, on a yellow card, why aren't we stretching him? Why aren't we getting crosses into him? Why aren't we Muniz backing into him? Force more fouls, get a second yellow card. I think it happened, was it last season as well? Or when did Maguire get another yellow card? I think it might have been the game last season when he was on a yellow card. He then nicked a late equaliser before we got that final winner. Same thing there. Stretch him, make him make a mistake, get him sent off. We didn't push Maguire hard enough in that second half to put him on the back foot. I think we gave the Man United players a lot more time than they should have done. And to be honest, it's fair play to both managers. It was an entertaining second half, end to end. Both teams wanted to win the game, including Fulham, away from home. They still believed we could win the game, but you've got to be more aggressive with those substitutions, and then you'll bring fresh players on sooner, and then you could have got maybe a little bit more intelligence when it counted. But that was the key thing, that lack of quality. First half and second half, it was the same. What can we do? That's what happened. We weren't clever enough. We weren't intelligent enough. We got sucker punched. But the issue is, McTominay, we're all saying we don't want to pay 30 million. Did we miss him? Could we have had him? Would you have had him in our central midfield in place of Tom Kearney on Friday night? I would have said yes.
He was right there for the goal along with Xerxes. He was literally right there.
So we're all saying too expensive. The 30 million is too much, but a 20-25 player, I would have grabbed that opportunity to get him in that central midfield. And believe you me, we wouldn't have lost that game if McTominay was playing for Fulham that night in that central midfield.
Here's another point, Emilio, before I go over to Max. When you look at the players that they could bring off the bench and the players Fulham could bring off the bench, it's like night and day. When you can bring on Xerxes and McTominay, okay, and that changes the match, and Fulham are bringing on who they're playing. Listen, nothing against Harry Wilson. I'm glad that they can bring on Harry Wilson. Nothing wrong with that. But this goes back to the players that they need to bring in this transfer window to take them where I think that they're not as far off as people think, but they need more talent. It's basically, I feel like they have a sports car and it doesn't have all of its parts yet. And that's what it feels like. It feels like it's missing a few parts and it's not running correctly. I want to see this car run correctly. Over to you, Max. I want to get your thoughts on the second half of our discussion here.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, it's been like this way for years at Fulham. I can't remember the last time we had a really good preseason, like a really good preseason with players in early and no major question marks before the start of the season. It shouldn't sound aspirational. That should be, honestly, the bare minimum a Premier League football club should be run like, especially considering this is one of the few instances in the past decade and a half of Fulham that we've had a consistent league status, I mean, we've known we were going to stay up in the Premier League since last winter, arguably, and we had time to prepare, and we haven't. And it's like a broken record in the show, Russ and Emilio. We've said this so many times with the cons about
every season we're saying this, Max.
Yeah.
And the only reason that this club has been successful, the major reason this club has been successful despite this is
we know why.
What?
We know why. It's Silva. We know
Marco
why.
Silva, exactly. Marco Silva is probably the best manager we've had in a long, long, long time. And even given the trying circumstances, he has a vision and the players buy into it. But I mean, it's just when you put it that kind of frankly, sports carved out its parts, rudderless, etc. We don't really have the tools right now. We don't have the tools.
Okay.
Well, look how many players net. How many have left? More like starting 11 plus bench players leaving versus replacing. We're down 3 players.
Yeah.
Let alone improving quality. We're down on quantity, let alone quality. So,
right.
Hence, to get back to the level of level playing field, you need 3 more signings to replace your departures, and then at the same time trying to strengthen with the 3 new additions compared to the 3 that have left. So net, we're 3 players down.
I agree with you, Emilio, but really the bottom, we need more on top of that, like you're saying. You need 3 players, but listen, I've been hearing from a source that Fulham could be bringing in up to 5 players. Who knows? Who knows if that happens? But I'm just telling you that 3 is the bare minimum. But if they don't even bring in 3, then they're short. Then we're talking about them being short again. And to Max's point, this is a broken record. We come on this show and we talk about, and we all sound the same from, say, 2 seasons ago, 3 seasons ago. It's the same way that the cons do the transfer window. It's time to shine from Tony Khan. This is his time, right? It's his time. This is showtime. This is when he gets a chance to shine. I think part of this is by design, because this is when you get your best buys. You can get the prices down if you wait and you wait and you wait. But the sacrifice to me is not worth it. And that's what we got, Emilio and Max. We're sacrificing instead of going in with strength, with being full force. We are waiting. We're waiting and waiting and waiting because the cons want to make good business deals. Screw the good business deals. I want the players in. And I think that's what ticks me off. I don't care about how much money they're spending. I see all these comments about finances and they're warranted, but it's not my money. It's not my money. Okay, I feel that they know what they need to do to put on a proper team on the pitch. And oh, by the way, and I'm going to say this, and no one's really factoring this in. And Emilio, I'm curious your thoughts when you see this, when you go to the opening match. When that Riverside stand, it's not going to be fully functional when you go, but when it is, they're going to make a lot of money off of it. Yeah. I truly believe that they're going to make a lot of money off it. So there is going to be a new revenue stream coming very, very soon. Yeah. And so I don't want to hear the excuses from them, that we have to be careful with our finances. F that. I'm going to say right now, screw that. Spend some effing money and get the players in. I'm sorry. I got to go.
It's true. I know it sounds like a broken record, but look, there's all this, McTominay, I'm going to go back to him. We've just talked about him 10 minutes ago. 25, I think, was on the table, 20-25 from Fulham. Man United wanted 30. We're talking about 5 million here. Again, could we get better? Of course we can, but we're Fulham. To spend 25-30 million on a McTominay it's a lot of money. But I said, I think if he was on the pitch on Friday night, we wouldn't have lost that game.
Okay.
End of. So that's two.
Okay.
That's 1 point you would have gained that you wouldn't have done. So it's points make prizes at the end of the day. But let's be honest. So it's every point counts. So, but yeah, we've got to just be a lot more. So I think there will be 2 or 3 new signings, but that's just to get to the same level of squad depth as last year, let alone push on and buy even more. So it's still a lot to say, but I don't want to see too much disruption. I don't want to see 5 new players coming in and they've barely got days and weeks to gel in. That's a problem. Same old story. And we're missing a trick with these. I want to say easier. 2 next games are easier on paper. No easy game in the Premier League, but if you want to be top 10, like you want to keep saying year in year out, you've got to aspire to get 4 to 6 points from those 2 games.
Okay, excellent. All right, guys, let's end with man of the match. There's some interesting choices here, guys. I'm going to go first, and I'm going to give one that I never thought I would give, okay? I'm going to go with Kenny Tete as man of the match, okay? I wanted Timothy Castagna to start. I liked what I saw from Kenny Tete. If it wasn't for Kenny Tete, we might have lost 2 or 3-0. So I'm going to give my man of the match to Kenny Tete. Over to you, Max, man of the match.
Yeah, I'm going to say Leno, just because I think he really saved the match on 3 instances with really great saves when United players are 1-on-1. But could have done Tete, could have also done Robinson, I think.
Okay. All right. How about you, Emilio?
Definitely Leno, absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. I thought he was outstanding. Yeah, one bad pass from defense, but other than that, his presence in goal. You look at our substitute goalkeeper now, our reserve keeper. Well, I saw him in the friendly game a few weeks ago. We've got problems if Leno gets injured, so let's be honest there as well. So from what I saw in that game, if he picks up an injury, a knock, and is it out longer term, we've got problems in goal. So Leno by a country mile. I think I'm going to give Cobble call. I thought, disagree with Matt. I thought Jeddah had one of his poorest games in a season. I thought he looked ineffective, gave the ball away too cheaply. I think him and Wobi just didn't link up well. I thought Jeddah was restricted because of the balance of the team. I thought Jeddah had one of his poorest games in the last 20. I gave him man of the play of the season last year. Bristol was a disappointing start for him. The fact that Diop, no one complained about Diop, suggests he had a good game, right? If he made a mistake, he would have gone viral on Twitter. The fact that no one complained about him suggests actually he did very well. I thought he kept his head calm, very cool. Bassi made mistakes, but Bassi's everyone's favourite defender, so he will get away with blue murder. Same thing, but Diop makes one mistake, he goes viral. Bassi makes a mistake, don't worry, it's the first one he ever makes. So I thought Diop had a very steady game, and Tete, good. I would like to have seen Castagna come on the last 20 minutes, to be honest with you. I thought push him up, get more, 1-0, another attacking option, fresh legs, or put even Tete, be a bit controversial, put Castagna, in a sense, playing wide as an attacking wide player, with his pace and the quality from the ball. So again, I would have made the tactical change then, take Tete off. I thought Tete had a steady game, but Leno saved us. Man United, if they weren't wasteful, would have won that quite comfortably.
Okay. Max, any other thoughts?
I mean, I think, I think the Jedi-Iwobi combo is a really good point. One thing I'd say about Jedi and William is they worked out really well together. And I think Emilio made a good acknowledgement when it's just not the same with Iwobi. So hopefully we can find a winger who complements Robinson the way William did.
Okay. All right, guys, the hour has flown by, and it's always so great to do it with the two of you. It's always fun. And I hope everyone enjoyed watching live. Unfortunately, and I'm going to share this with Max and Emilio if they do not already know this, I do not know what's going on with X, but it would not allow me to go live once again. And I'm sorry that we did not get more of a live audience, but thank you to everyone that did watch live on YouTube and on Facebook. Thank you guys for watching live. And we'll have more live shows. Anyways, final thoughts to you, Emilio, then we'll wrap it up.
Look, it's work in progress. This is a project. I'm confident we'll get 2 or 3 new players. I don't think we'll get to 5 or even 6. I'm seeing some fans are asking for, but we need quality, not quantity, to be honest with you. I think that's the key thing. Is go and spend that money. You've bagged £100 million from 2 players in the last 12 months. We've only seen 30 million spent on that. So yeah, we need to start spending some money and build build for the future. But the fact is, we've exited some of our older players. The average age has come down.
Yep.
Important game against Leicester on Saturday. Very important game. And you will see some changes, no doubt.
Okay. All right. So to end the show, I'm just going to share my final thoughts, and they are this, that as I reiterated after the match and the next day, is that what's going on with Fulham in this match does not change my thoughts on Fulham, my prediction on Fulham. I truly believe that they're going to get the players that, Emilio, you just said that they need to get the quality more than the quantity to add to the mix. Because if they do, I think that, as we talked about during the show, the base of a top 10 side is there. They just need to add to it, and they need, as Emilio and Max especially, we haven't really talked a lot about Emile Smith-Rowe, but Max did mention that he did not play great, but I think part of it has to do with fitness, and I think once he gets up to speed, I think you're going to have a different Fulham side, and I look forward to the rest of the season. Nothing has changed in my mind because losing to Manchester United 1-0. Enough with that. They can crow all they want, and I'll leave everyone with one final thought. The coverage of this match was disgusting of how one-sided it was, all about Manchester United. I'm just talking about what I witnessed here in the U.S. It was all about Manchester United, and I've heard that it was the same in England. There are two teams playing in that match. How about talk about both of them? So the media need to get their job done because they did not really give even, I would say, 10% to Fulham. Talk about Fulham was always from the perspective of Manchester United. This should be a neutral viewing, and it wasn't. It was a home match, a home, basically, announcers, pundits for Manchester United. Disgusting. I'm sorry, I had to get that off my chest. Max, before I go, would you agree with me on that?
Yeah, I think it's going to be great when United finish 8th again, and then every single coverage is about how they're in crisis, and maybe they'll give Ten Hag another contract.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Great show, guys. But it is time to wrap this up. For Emilio Danello, Max Cohen, I'm Russ Goldman. Thank you as always for watching and listening to Cottage Talk, part of the talkSPORT Fan Network.